Good morning everybody, it's before sunrise and I've come down to Brighton seafront to tell you all about some filters that Freewell have sent me for the DJI Pocket 2. Now let me tell you a story. Once upon a time the DJI Pocket was not so wide. Now I had the camera, I made quite a few videos for my YouTube channel with the DJI Pocket 1. I was happy with it, but it wasn't quite wide enough. Now at the time, Freewell created a wide angle adapter for the original DJI Pocket, which resolved that to a certain extent. It meant that you could get wide shots, but then you couldn't use ND filters, and that's important when you're making proper videos. So if you're not familiar with making videos, you need to keep your shutter speed at 1/50th of a second all the time, regardless of how bright or dark it is. If you're coming out in bright conditions, you will need to have ND filters as well. Fast forward to 2020, DJI released the second version of the Pocket 2. I instantly buy it because I want it in my life, and now I'm filming with it. And the camera on the Pocket 2 is automatically wider straight out of the box. Also inside the box, DJI provide you with a wide angle adapter. So the camera itself, I believe it's 20mm, and then the wide angle adapter took it to a whopping 15mm full frame equivalent. That's what you're looking at right now. That is full arm's length. You can see the sun is just coming up behind the pier over there. So this filter here is going to hold out with the correct settings for a certain amount of time, and it's going to get too bright. Then I've got the same problem. Once the sun comes up too high, it's going to be too bright. I can no longer use this wide angle adapter and keep video friendly shutter speeds. So what am I going to do? Freewell, thank you for inventing this. Now reluctantly I'm filming this entire video in 4K. It creates a bit of a headache and the files are massive, but I thought it's important to film it in 4K so that we can compare the quality between the DJI filters and also the Freewell filters that they've sent me. Now, Freewell have created a brand new idea. As soon as I got my DJI Pocket 2, I just thought, why can't they make a wide angle lens with ND filters? And the answer to that is they haven't really got much space. These filters are magnetic and they attach to the front of the lens. It can't be too heavy, and plus because the lens on the camera is already quite wide, you can't project out very far because you get vignetting. So that's the challenge, and Freewell, they've delivered. What a beautiful morning, look at this. I'm just going to see how long I can continue to use this before the ND filters are absolutely required. Sun's been up for about 5 minutes here. Now, Freewell have sent me a selection of lenses which we'll tackle one by one. Some of these excite me and some of them I've never used before, so I'm interested to see what the effects are. That's why I'm shooting in 4K, because some of these effects will be very subtle, and I think it's important to have a high resolution to compare the quality. Right, so they have sent me the wide angle adapter with the ND filters that go on the back of it. They've also sent me an anamorphic lens. That's exciting. I'll talk about that in a bit. And they've also sent me some mist filters. At the moment I've got the 15mm wide angle adapter from DJI. I'm going to take this off. And that is the standard lens width built into the DJI Pocket 2. This is the quality that you'll get straight out the DJI Pocket 2. This is the DJI wide angle adapter. For a side-by-side comparison, on the left you've got the DJI Pocket 2 with no filters, and on the right hand side, DJI's own 15mm wide angle filter. Ignoring the difference in the field of view, at 100% I'm reviewing this on a 4K monitor. In terms of detail, I'm not seeing much difference at all between these two clips. If you zoom in to 200% and you start to pixel peep, then you will notice a slight drop in contrast when using the wide angle filter adapter, but it's nothing to worry about. But of course we want to know how the Freewell compares. On the left we've got the Freewell wide angle adapter, and on the right you've got DJI's wide angle adapter. At 100%, reviewing this on a 4K screen again, I'm not seeing any real difference. Although you can see when you compare it to no filter, both of these filters are adding a slight colour cast. Zooming in to 200% again, these are very close, but I think the DJI wide angle adapter just takes it, but there's really not much in it at all. If this is good, then this is going to live on my DJI Pocket. I typically go out and shoot landscapes, so therefore I will go out with a wide angle adapter, no ND filters. Then when the sun comes up and it gets a bit brighter, I need to put on the ND filters. Something else to add, these filters are absolutely tiny and fiddly. At the moment it's -1 degree Celsius. I can hardly feel my fingers, and trying to take off these tiny little filters is an absolute nightmare. So having the wide angle adapter quadruples the size of these filters, and it makes it a lot more manageable to take them on and off. Okay, so I'm just going to sit back, wait for the sun to come up a bit more, and then I'll be able to use the ND filters. So Freewell have sent me 2 mist filters. There's a 1/8 strength and 1/4 strength. Quarter is stronger than 1/8. This is the 1/8 strength, and because it's very sunny and you can't use this with ND filters, I'm shooting at a whopping 1,000th of a second. So if there's any jitteriness to the video, if I wave my hand around, it should look very unnatural. This is what I was talking about earlier. You need ND filters. But you don't have to just use mist filters outdoors, you can use them inside. And this is still the 1/8 mist filter. How is it handling the highlights on the Palace Pier? Oh, it's very contrasty. This is the 1/4 mist filter, and I've never used mist filters before, so can you tell the difference? This should be twice as strong as the 1/8, and the effect should be where there are harsh light sources, it should soften the effect. Essentially, when you look at the filters really close up, it's just covered in very small imperfections. It's very subtle frosting to the glass. So can you see the difference? This is 1/4. Right, here we go. This is Utopia. I've got the DJI Pocket 2 with the wide angle adapter, and I've also got an ND64 filter on it as well behind the wide angle adapter. This is what you want when you're making vlogs. A tiny little setup with a gimbal that's built in, 4K video, high quality, wide angle adapter. I've got a tiny little front facing screen so that I can see I'm in the shot, and I don't seem to be overexposing right now, which is good. And this is it. This is why I love the DJI Pocket so much. I can't compare this to the DJI wide angle lens with the ND filters because they don't make it. As far as I'm aware, Freewell have invented this product. Now, I have reviewed Freewell products before. Last year, they sent me some magnetic ND filters for my DSLR, and it lives in my camera bag. I was very happy with the quality of those. If this matches the quality of the filters that I've tested from Freewell before, then I'm happy. This is gonna live in my camera bag. Let's talk about their Anamorphic filter. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'll show you the original anamorphic footage that comes out of this, because you have to do something in editing afterwards to make this correct. If you ever go to the cinema, when we're allowed to go back out to the cinemas again, then you'll know that they're inherently very, very wide. And that's because they are using anamorphic lenses. Now, the budget way of creating that is what I've been doing, is just putting some black bars at the top and the bottom of your video. But essentially, you'll lose about 25% of your video. And the danger with that is if you were to be filming somebody like this, and then you put some bars at the top and the bottom, you could end up chopping the top of their head off. With an anamorphic filter or an anamorphic lens, then that's completely different. What you see in the original footage is what you'll get in the end product. And what you do is, it's called de-squeezing in Adobe Premiere. I've set up a preset which will correct the perspective. And what this does is it gets you a wider field of view. Now, the second thing that an anamorphic filter or an anamorphic lens, if you've got the money, will do is it creates anamorphic lens flares. Now, at the same time I was testing this, I was watching a Star Wars movie last week, and there are anamorphic flares absolutely everywhere, and they look so cool. Now, I'm going to show you a few different examples, but the smaller the light source, the more effective the anamorphic lens flares will be. I'd say the only downside to this on a DJI Pocket is DJI Pockets aren't great in low light. They're not bad, but this isn't the go-to camera for filming nighttime videos. So I'd say that's the only downside to trying to achieve that look with a DJI Pocket. That's not a fault of the filter itself, that's just the DJI Pocket. Let's shoot some cinematic B-roll with this anamorphic filter. tip on editing the anamorphic footage: this filter is a 1.15 times, and most editing software only has the standard 1.33 anamorphic preset, the 1.33 being the high-end anamorphic cinema lenses. When it comes to de-squeezing the footage from the Pocket, I've found quite a few different ways of doing it, but the easiest way in Adobe Premiere is to do it once and create a preset. If you create your timeline as per usual, in this instance it's 3840 by 2160, which is 4K. Drag the video onto the timeline and then go into Effects, untick Uniform Scale, and then change the vertical scale height. Now technically you should change this to 0.87, as when you divide 1 by 1.15 you get the new vertical height. However, from my tests it seems to be closer to around 1.1, otherwise my face ends up being a bit fat, or square objects come out a smidge wider than they are high. I found a vertical correction of around 0.9 seems to look right. What this means is that you get less cinematic bars at the top and the bottom of your footage, which might be what you want, but I prefer to add a bit extra, so I added 12% black bars at the top and the bottom of my videos. It's also worth noting that the wide angle adapter gets you a very similar field of view to the anamorphic lens, although this is working in every direction, including vertically. I've reviewed back the footage in 4K of the mist filters, and it's not something that I would use. As I've stressed throughout this entire video, when I'm using the Pocket outside, I use NDs to get a correct shutter speed, and you can't do that with the mist filters. And I was really struggling to see what the difference was. The mist filters don't work for me, but they might work for you. The wide angle lens, to let you know where I am with this, I've already sold my DJI wide angle lens because the Freewell is equal optical quality, plus it does more because you can use ND filters with it as well. There's a recommendation for you. I'll be using it, I've already sold my old one. Now the anamorphic filter, which I'm using right now, and you can see the flares as I turn around and the sun pokes up, it's quite a niche, unique product, and I think in the right circumstances it can look really cool, but if you use it all the time, people will probably get sick of it. You can also achieve that look from using the wide angle adapter and putting cinema bars at the top and the bottom, but no, you are throwing away pixels. If you do it properly using an anamorphic lens or a filter, you're keeping all the pixels, you're keeping the entire image. An important thing is, I've been using this filter on Brighton seafront, and it's not exactly futuristic. But if you were to go into, say, London or a city, then I think these lens flares, it's going to give you that futuristic look. It's going to be a lot more appropriate. So the right conditions, I think that would be perfect. An instant regret. I should have shot all of that B-roll in Brighton in slow motion. What a missed opportunity. If you are interested in any of these products, I'll put a link in the description. That is an affiliate link, so I'll get a proportion of the sales from that. If you do buy them, thank you for supporting my channel. Other than that, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.